Welcome to Studio Snack. I'm Lydia Thornley, designer, illustrator, visual artist, and you can see some of my illustrations on garments.
And I'm Narciso Saureda, creative director, designer, and I have zero sense of fashion.
Can't be worse than mine. Out and about with my sketchbook, I've noticed that suddenly wardrobes have changed. It's as though somebody's flipped a switch to autumn. Maybe it's the back to school thing or shiny new shoes.
Yes, and digging out the waterproof after the long period of drought that we had.
And that's turned our thoughts to fashion and its relationship with food. On the face of it, you wouldn't think there would be a connection, but once you start looking...
Once you start looking, you see it everywhere. Next to us, we have our new favorite place, the V&A East Storehouse. Isn't it the best?
It really is.
Which we've been wandering around a million times. The volunteers know us now.
And there have been some interesting and iconic fashion pieces. I had a rootle around on the V&A website as well to explore its collections, and they've got the Warhol Campbell's suit paper dress, Dame Edna's breakfast dress, which I absolutely love.
It's brilliant.
Fabulous hats. Broad bean salad, anyone? Grape shoes. And because Bowie was such a fashion icon, we've included on our list the limited edition Bowie Coca-Cola cans that were made for the Nordoff Robbins music charity. And fruits have been everywhere as motifs for textiles. I imagined these being chintzy or brocades, but searching on the V&A, I found some fantastic mid-century pieces. Narcis, what have you found?
Yes, the first thing that popped in my head when we're talking about fashion and snack, it was the Lady Gaga's mid-dress. Just because it was obviously very impactful.
It was.
I feel like it's quite a good thing to have whilst you're watching the MB Awards. It sometimes gets very long, so if you get peckish, you just peck a little bit. But you were talking about fruits, and what about Carmen Miranda's fruit hat, the Brazilian singer and artist? And then obviously Katy Perry went once to a Met Gala dressed as a burger. Was part of Moschino fashion, which they've been doing a lot of baguette clutches, a slice of cake clutches. Also some fashions they've done collaborations with food brands, like Crocs did a weird thing with KFC. It was so popular in 2020 that in 30 minutes they got sold out.
Wow.
It's easier to get to a concert of Oasis than actually get one of those Crocs. And I know being a nerd is not considered fashionable in most of the times, but in here is the most fashion thing to do, and I'm sure you have some stuff for us.
I am the least fashionable woman on earth, so I wear nerdery well, and here it is. I looked into fashionable foods. Avo on toast. A quick search suggests that it appeared in the 2010s. But started in the 1990s. But here's the thing. A Taste article wrote of a recipe from 1920. Go back further, and there it is in the mid-19th century with bread and salt, but records of eating avocados go all the way back to the Aztecs, and early Spanish settlers calling them the butter of the poor.
Oh, wow.
Sourdough, the toast of choice for your smashed avo brunch, and something everyone seemed to be making in the pandemic when supermarket shelves were empty and so were working lives. But that fermentation process looks to be as old as agriculture itself, developed in ancient Egypt, and according to an article on the BBC website, it might have started by accident, happening on a way to use some of the flour and water mixture for the next day's batch of baking. Cupcakes, for a while they were absolutely everywhere. You couldn't move for vertiginous buttercream icing. But in a 1796 American cookbook, there it is, as a recipe for cakes to be baked in small cups. But the name cupcake didn't appear until the next century. In the 1828 book, 75 Receipts for Pastry Cakes and Sweetmeats. I love that title.
I love it.
But what about fashion that you wear to eat? Tea dresses, dinner jackets, dressing for dinner. Well, it was a status symbol, of course, there to show that you had the means and the staff for all those costume changes. But there are some interesting nuggets of history. The dinner jacket seems to have evolved from more active lifestyles among the upper and middle classes. Men wanted more freedom of movement as a result. In 1865, the future Edward VII commissioned the first dinner jacket from his tailors Henry Poole & Co. for informal dinner parties. And the tea dress we are all about snacks after all, started as a tea gown in the late 19th century, at a point where women were starting to get tired of restrictive corsets that were hard to breathe in, leave alone eat in. So a new style of dress evolved, first only for indoor wear with family and friends, then more elaborate to wear back in public. But going back to that fruit in textiles, that has a long history across the globe and along the Silk Route. But there's also history closer to home. William Morris's strawberry thief pattern of a thrush pinching strawberries, designed in 1883, was a block print. It took a number of days to produce, and it was one of Morris & Co.'s most expensive prints. But it also turned into his most popular. And the design was based on a moment when William Morris caught a thrush nicking strawberries at his home in Kelmscott Manor in Oxfordshire. Now it's everywhere, even on iPhone cases. And I read an interesting Guardian article that argues that he would be thrilled and appalled at the same time by this, because he was a strong advocate for design for all, while at the same time loving craft and hating waste.
This is such a good nerdery.
And that brings us full circle to our own design practice. What have we learned from this sashay down the catwalk of food in fashion? Well, I found it refreshing to be reminded that fashions have deeper roots than you think. And for me, the deeper you go with inquiry, the more interesting it gets. Narcis, how about you?
Yeah, obviously all this nerdery is super interesting. And I think fashion, and I was surprised how fashion and food work together quite a lot in a very imaginative ways. When I started the research, I wasn't sure we would find anything. And that makes me think that inspiration can come from everywhere, and usually comes from the most basic things like eating.
This month for our WhatsApp interview, we spoke to Orla Drury, a recent fashion graduate from UAL London College of Fashion. And Narcis was curious to know if there are limits to fashion.
So we asked her, when do you think that's design or when is art? And that's what she said.
I think it can be both. Throughout history, people have been reluctant to have art associated with fashion, as they feel it degrades its value. But I think, especially now, in a time when creative fields are so intertwined, it's important to recognise the validity of both art forms and how they complement each other.
And the other question that we asked her was that we tend to immerse ourselves in brand experiences, and we just wanted to know if she's got like a designer or someone who actually she admires and likes using food as their marketing, and this is what she told us.
One of my favourite designers, Anya Hindmarch, has always been inspired by food in her designs. Since 2022, Hindmarch has launched a seasonal pop-up called the Ice Cream Project, where you can go and buy lots of weird and wonderful flavours of ice cream associated with her bag designs. Now, the thing that I find really interesting is the fact that it's a seasonal pop-up, so it comes back every single year. Well, since 2022, it's come back every single year due to its popularity. And from a marketing point of view, this is really interesting because pop-ups are normally a fleeting, one-time store where you might get a free gift. It's to create buzz around a new product. Where she's able to have this as a now permanent fixture each year due to its popularity, and each year it probably creates more sales for her as it's directly opposite her store, bringing awareness as well just to her in general as a designer. Her ice creams are directly correlated to her designs. She also has a cafe next to her ice cream shop which has cakes with little eyes on it, just like her bags. So she really is playing into this food being part of her designs, not only in the fact that she bases a lot of her bag designs on food. She's had Dairy Milk chocolate bar clutches, she's had McVitie's biscuits, handbags, and then she's obviously just really taken that and ran with it, turning it into very strange ice cream flavours, which everyone clearly loves and wants to try.
Fantastic answers. Thank you so much, Orla.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And that takes us to our experiments. The brief was super simple. Turn snacks into art or something textile. Lydia, what did you do?
Well, I decided to make a textile pattern from illustrations I've done for previous episodes of Studio Snack. Well, 3, you know me. Why do one thing when you can take it further?
Of course.
On which point, I have also had them printed on cloth. as strike-offs, which are textile proofs, and those are winging their way to us as we speak. Shameless exhibition plug klaxon. And I use the visual language of strike-offs to explore green spaces as well for my 2 textile pieces, which are in the East London exhibition People and Places of Newham at the wonderful Tower Gallery at Memorial Community Church, Barking Road, E13, which is also open for open house, Fridays to Sundays, 3 to 7 p.m. until 5th of October.
And you must see it.
And what was your experiment?
So I used some leftover fake red leather.
Pleather, it's called, I think.
Oh, pleather.
Yeah.
That I had it laying around in my desk. And what I was quite inspired with Orla's ideas as well as the Moschino. So I just went and thought leather croissant.
Ooh.
Why not? And so I created a couple. Well, I wouldn't say created. I've attempted to create a couple of pins which they made of leather. One of them is trying to create a croissant with like the triangle and then rolling it in. It didn't really work because obviously leather is not that malleable as dough. And then I've done another one which was layered in leather, like in leather cuttings. And then the other thing was, once I had leftovers, I just thought I'm gonna try to design. It's a bit a school project, but I've designed a croissant clutch, a croissant bag. We'll put all these projects in our social medias and the website.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to seeing those. Now, I think there's really a lesson in that. We could just have stuck a prompt into AI, but where's the fun in that?
That's the thing. You just need to do something manually.
There's so much discovery in there.
Yeah.
It's joyous. I love it. Join us next month for another studio snack. I'm sashaying off to the cafe for something fashionable. Chai?
Yes, please.